All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting here on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, of course, at 5:30 p.m. I'm calling the meeting officially to order. Oh, we have no one for an invocation. Do we have a volunteer? Mr. Reeker, would you grace us with an invocation, please?
Dear Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that you've given us. But the biggest blessing you've given us is yourself. Thank you for the hope that you've given us. We just came through Christmas, and you, the light of the world, are now shining in the light of your light in the world. Lord, I pray for our country, pray for stability among people, that we will recognize one another as human beings, as citizens, and treat each other as such. I thank you for our community, a community of people that get along and love each other within our town. People are working hard to make our town a better town. I bring to you all of us here on the council tonight as we deliberate and vote and decide and discuss. Our thoughts and our actions, what we think and do and say will be pleasing to you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ed. Okay, Angie, the roll call, please.
Here.
Ty.
Here.
Cole.
Here.
Lucas.
Here.
Eric. Palmer.
Here.
Baker. Here. McNitt.
Here.
Thank you. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. It's exciting. We have some awards, accolades, and presentations tonight, and it's largely our sanitary sewer system. So once again, I think we may have one of the most awarded sewer systems in the state. North Platte Wastewater Treatment Facility Scott Wilbur Award. The Scott Wilbur Award is presented to wastewater treatment plants across the state of Nebraska. They are judged based on the plant's general appearance, upkeep, and the knowledge of the staff that operates it. In the past 19 years, the North Platte Wastewater Treatment Plant has been awarded the Scott Wilbur Award 19 times, 3 of which have been best in class. Safety Award. The Safety Award is presented by the Nebraska Water Environment Association. It is based on the employee's safety record, accident prevention, and employees' participation in safety. The wastewater treatment plant has been presented with the Safety Award 15 times, 2 of which were the Gold Safety Award in 2005 and 2011. Now, if you don't think there's a lot happening in our wastewater plant, you would be wrong. Daily average flow, 3 million gallons per day. Monthly average flow, slightly over 90 million gallons, and that makes the yearly flow, let's see, how many zeros is that? A little over 1 billion gallons, okay? All right. They were featured in the Treatment Plant Operator magazine in August of 2018. The lab technicians are required every year to pass proficiency testing for the state of Nebraska. So let's congratulate our wastewater treatment facility folks who have received these 2 awards. You all need to come up here now. We'll follow up on this tomorrow. Thank you all. Congratulations. We may not consider wastewater very important all the time, but when it doesn't work, it becomes the most important thing right away. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Excuse me. This is a little bit long, so I'll be reading for a while. Number 1A, approve the minutes of January 6, 2026. B, send the application of CD Liquors NP LLC DBA City Discount Liquors for a Class D liquor license off sale only for their location at 821 North Jeffers Street to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. C, approve the application by Skyline Liquor for a special designated liquor license on February 6, 2026 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Dayspring Bank, 410 Rodeo Road for business after hours. D, approve the application by Skyline Liquor for a special designated liquor license on February 20, 2026 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Adams Bank and Trust, 121 South Jeffers for business after hours. E, approve the application by NebraskaLand Days, Inc. for a special designated license on February 28, 2026 from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. at the DNN Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for Buffalo Bill Birthday Bash fundraiser. F, approve the application by Big Red Liquor LLC for a special designated license on March 14, 2026 from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. at the DNN Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for MMA fights. G, approve the application by Eagles Fraternal Order 2839 for special designated licenses on March 27, 2026 from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. March 28, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and March 29, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the DNN Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for the Eagles State Pool Tournament. H, approve the applications by Knights of Columbus, 1211 St. Patrick Council for a special designated license on February 20 and 27 and March 6, 13, 20, and 27 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at St. Patrick's Church Parish Hall at 415 North Chestnut Street for their Lenten fish fries. I, approve requests from Adams Bank and Trust, Dayspring Bank, Equitable Bank, First Interstate Bank, First National Bank of Omaha, Hershey Bank, Lincoln Federal Savings Bank, Nebraska Public Agency Investment Trust, NPAIT, NebraskaLand Bank, Sandhills State Bank, Union Bank and Trust, Wells Fargo, NA, and Western Nebraska Bank to be designated as depository banks for city funds for 2026. J, authorize the mayor to sign the resolution and policy plan for the updated Title VI Non-Discrimination Policy for 2026 through 2029 from North Platte Public Transit and submit the approved resolution to the Nebraska Department of Transportation.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols. Calling the question on the consent agenda. Consent agenda is passed. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 2, authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents with Motorola for door access and camera system upgrades for all city buildings using Sourcewell contract pricing.
Mr. Mayor, I authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents with Motorola for door access and camera system upgrades for all city buildings using Sourcewell contract pricing.
Motion by Vols, second by Flanders. Lane, you want to talk through this a little bit?
So this is to upgrade all of our door systems, our entry systems, and our camera systems throughout city buildings. Originally, we were looking at doing a couple buildings per year to kind of stay within budget, if you will. And once we got a pricing for the complete system, They offered us 5 years, no interest to pay it over the 5 years. So, but getting everything done this year. So instead of having to have a piecemeal system where you had some old and some new mixed together, this allows us to do everything at once, but pay for it over 5 years, and work it into the budget without any budget, constraints.
Any questions or comments? Ty?
So thinking about that, does that become a lease at that point of the equipment, or is it a loan contract? I wonder, or how's the?
We have the representative in the audience, or Kevin, one of those maybe could answer how that works.
Greg Soap with Bidwell. No, it's not. So it's the way it's set up through Sourcewell, it is a stated contract, and they are putting a one-time percentage on the actual quote to be paid over, so it's not compounding interest whatsoever. So it's not a lease, and after 5 years, the city owns all the equipment, and so NVR and cameras and access control.
I'm sorry, may I
Go ahead,
continue to ask
yeah.
questions? So we own it at the end, or we own it from the day one?
Correct.
So it's,
We're just allowing you to pay over 5 years.
Pete?
I don't see the rec center on here.
The rec center portion is built into the new construction, and so it's separate from this piece.
Thank
I
you.
think the same possibly with Cody Pool as well.
Cody's on
Okay,
here,
maybe
but-
the new and some of the wastewater stuff. Maybe some of that's built into the design and build, and not standalone, since these are all going on at the same time.
Okay, will it implement the same system or,
Yes.
okay, so it's hooked up to the same network case here? I don't know that. Okay.
Rod, you had a question?
I think it just got answered.
Okay. Other questions? Ed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Did I understand you? Did you say interest free?
There is a percent that's put on for the, to go with Sourcewell, which is the state contract. But yeah, there's no compounding interest year over year. So it's, it's a way that most of us would want to buy a home or a car. So over 5 years, we're able to spread that out, Sourcewell through Motorola.
So the percentage fee that you're talking about is not an interest payment, it's a contractual payment to use the system.
No, not through the system. To have Motorola hold the note for 5 years.
And I have another question, I guess, regarding the system itself. What's different from what we currently have and what we see?
What you currently have is night vision primarily, with the exception of library and animal shelter, they don't have anything today. Those systems back in 2018 were deemed by the federal government not to be used because of Chinese backing to the Dahua technology company, and so those are actually no longer to be used within federal and city and state government buildings. So those will be becoming obsolete, and you could face penalty of future funding from the federal government if they continue to be used. What's going to be used today, Vigilon is through Motorola. So Motorola owns Vigilon, much like what your police probably use for cameras that they wear on themselves, and sheriff probably do as well. Those are most likely Motorola. And so the Vigilon system can synchronize and connect in with those down the road as well.
So the components of what you're proposing to sell us, where do those components come from?
So they are some Taiwanese, there are some Japanese as well, or Chinese as well. It's just not part of the Dahua technology group. And it's been authorized through the federal government. Not blacklisted.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just real quick, this is probably too much information, but what are we buying here? So we're buying cameras and like is there a key punch card or something for employees to get in and out? What does this whole system entail?
Yep, good question. So, every building that currently has cameras today, we're either gonna replace the cameras, with new cameras, or we're removing cameras. Transit building as an example, we've got cameras on all four sides. We're gonna move those to the corner and put multi-sensor cameras there so you get better field of vision for, with 3 lenses in one camera for one drop. You will get HD, or HDI for your door access to get in and out of the buildings for employees. And then every building is gonna have its own NVR server to store, all the video, and you can view it real time. And so each building, if a building we talked about this morning, if a building were to be wiped out through a tornado or whatever, all the other buildings will still have the ability to record. And then all the buildings are connected through the 500 megabit ring, fiber ring. And so from any location, you can view all of the cameras within the system.
And then are there access pads with this? Are you doing the locking systems or no?
We are, yes. Part of that is the card readers.
Okay,
So all the card readers that are on the buildings today will be upgraded to the new card readers
okay,
for access control. And then the doors, library, we're gonna get those 3 doors connected as well. So the employees, they can come in, they don't use keys anymore, they can
perfect.
badge in and out. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Nick?
Is there gonna be some sort of service package with this, or is this just installation and equipment only?
Once you purchase it, the equipment comes, it's a little bit different than some other technologies. You get a service agreement with the equipment off the bat. And it's unlimited, time to call in for training, for anything else. There are upgrades that go on an annual basis that are pushed out as well. So that's the life of the thing.
Other question, Ty?
I guess back to the understanding the budget. So did we have some money for the first stage of this in this cycle's budget?
Back to the
The
understanding
plan
of the
was to
budget.
take it out
So
of the contingency fund.
did we,
Okay.
did we have some money
It's still
for
available
the
for
first
that.
stage of this in this
Okay,
cycle?
so
Back
the-
to
so the-
understanding
The plan was to
budget.
take it out
So
of the
Doing this in
contingency
this
fund.
year wasn't planned, or
We'd only planned originally we'd only planned transit and possibly city hall, and
Okay.
now basically with the numbers, they're real close to what we would have had for that first year. That
you can
anyway, and so
spread
but
out
now
over-
we're getting everything done at once instead of having to have multiple times coming back to install and having different buildings on the old system, different on the new.
Just a suggestion, not to prolong this, but I think I would just make sure that Don's comfortable and we have a really good understanding of that contract, because we got to remember we got to account for that in audited financial statements. And I still don't know if it's a loan or a lease or a rent to own or I mean, no idea how you'd account for. It seems kind of vague on all that. And then if that financing cost is more than what we're paying on our warrants, we probably ought to examine that too. So again, I'm not trying to hold anything up. I think it's a good plan, but just I think those are things that should be looked at.
I think
Ed? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lane.
with your motion where it's authorizing the mayor to sign all necessary documents before anything's signed, we can make sure all those questions are answered.
So you mentioned upgrades. Are those upgrades part of the process, part of the contract? In other words, are the fees for upgrades, or is that just part of the contract?
There will be some fees down the line for, just like any upgrades, smaller upgrades are part of the actual cameras themselves and NVR that are pushed out automatically. But then other upgrades, if there are some larger, enhancements that they're doing to the cameras or systems themselves, there may be some fees. But those fees are nominal compared to what a camera or any other type of system is. Cameras with Vigilon, they are staying up to date and current with technology and what's going on, AI and everything like that. So
Are those upgrades optional?
they are, absolutely they are. Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 2. Item number 2 is passed. Item number 3, First reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4243 to amend section 150.035 to the code of the city of North Platte relating to ice and water shield. Lane, would you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4243. An ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, to amend the code of the city of North Platte by revising chapter 150, section 150.035, entitled International Residential Code, IRC, adopted by reference within Title 15, Land Usage, to provide that this ordinance shall be made a part of the code of the city of North Platte, Nebraska, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4243 to amend code 150.035 of the code of the city of North Platte.
Second.
Motion by Vols, second by Dye. Sorry, we're having a little problem with the microphones. Can you guys hear me out there in the audience okay? Okay. It's not going into the recording for some reason, so that's why we're going back and forth here. So, okay.
Would there be some reason to waive the 3 readings on this?
I think that would be helpful. I was going to ask Lane to kind of explain what's going on real quick here.
That'd be
So,
helpful.
We've had some, so we were, when this was really originally adopted, you have the option of putting no or yes if it's required for the ice barrier. And apparently a lot of our roofing contractors have had some problems getting some insurance companies to pay claims because we had put the no on there. And so by putting yes on there, it should be a lot easier for them to get the claims. This just makes it a little bit, I guess maybe Pete could actually explain exactly what the insurance companies are looking at on that, but it should help us as far as contractors getting insurance claims paid.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
go ahead.
Yeah, basically an insurance company will pay for what's on the roof already, like kind and quality. Upgrades would cost the insured more money unless per code it is in the code. So with us putting this in there, this will aid our insureds in the city all over to allow for ice shields to be put on roofs at no cost to them. So that's basically the gist of it.
Thank you.
The waiving of the 3 readings, no one's going to be putting on roofs in the next 3 months probably, but I don't care. We can waive the 3 readings if we want to. And I would make a motion to waive the remaining required readings on ordinance number 4243.
Motion by Vols. Who was the second? Ed? Okay. Second by Riekert. Any discussion on the motion to waive the 3 readings? Okay, calling the question on the motion to waive the 3 readings, please. Motion passes. We now have an amended potential approval in 1 reading. Any other discussion on item number 3 as amended? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 3 as amended. Item number 3 passes as amended. Okay, moving on to item number 4. Third reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4205 to create paving extension district number 840 on proposed Francis Street from Devco Avenue to Bicentennial Avenue. Lane, go ahead.
Ordinance number 4205. An ordinance for the creation of paving district number 840 on proposed Francis Street from Devco Avenue to Bicentennial Avenue in the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, and ordering the construction of street improvement therein.
Thank you.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4205, create paving extension district number 840 on proposed Francis Street from Devco Avenue to Bicentennial Avenue on 3rd reading.
Second.
Motion by Flanders, second by McNew. Okay, everybody, just for clarity, this is the item that was tabled in our last meeting because Councilman Garrick had some questions about how the taxes would be handled. So we want to make sure we clear those up. And to that end, I've invited some folks here to offer their expertise. And also I put together a quick presentation. So, well, it may not be quick. Angie, would you switch over? I'm going to attempt to sit here and do this. Hopefully my eyes will cooperate. No, we do not want to restart for Windows updates right now. That would not be a productive use of our time. Like anything, when you start talking about tax increment financing, it can get complex really fast. And then when you add in the street assessment, it can get even muddier. So this is an attempt to clear that up. Councilman Lucas helped me to develop kind of a TIF model that we're going to talk through. This is not intended to answer every possible question you might ever have about tax increment financing. So don't think for 1 second that's going to be the case here. It's just going to really talk through how the money flows on one set of properties. So hopefully you guys can see the screen there. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. And there we go. Okay. I apologize for my limited artistic ability before we get started here. It's not very good at all. Nice quote from Mr. Buffett: price is what you pay and value is what you get. And as you think about how tax increment financing works, it's kind of somewhat of an investment in the future. This is just some pictures out of the documents on the Fritz Farms development, which is the development that's out on East Phillip Street. We've been talking about these streets. The one on the left is the housing development, or mostly housing development, that's underway right now. If you've been down Phillip Street very far, you can't miss it. And then if you look at the right, that is the other, I don't know, 2/3 of the development might be the best way to say it. The piece on the left sets roughly, if you were to combine the drawings, it would set right above where the word development is on the other drawing. So the yellow underlined street there, or yellow line street on the right side, is the stretch of Francis Street that we're talking about for this particular paving assessment. And to orient you to where this is in town, directly north of that, the left edge of that yellow line would be our post office out there in the industrial development area. Oh, that didn't come across very well. Okay. Looked better on my computer monitor. Sorry, everybody. Just a couple definitions. TIF bond is the official document used by the Community Redevelopment Authority that provides for the holder to receive split property tax funds. The TIF bond itself is a piece of paper. It's worth the 3 cents it took to print on, and that's about it, unless you have a way to monetize it. So TIF bond interest rate, the interest rate set in the development agreement. And TIF bond monetization occurs when the holder of a TIF bond funds eligible expenses by borrowing money from a bank, an investor, or a combination of banks and investors. Developers' loan payments are funds generated by the increase in property tax value resulting from development and are used to repay the TIF bond monetization borrowing. Okay? This will become relevant a little later on. I wanted to do kind of a graphic display, and I've been wanting to do this for years, on where or how TIF money is generated in a certain piece of property. So if we assume, and this is, you'll see a larger spreadsheet that has the same information, but if we assume that a piece of property, or 5 lots valued at $5,000 a piece, creating a $25,000 amount of money, the original land value in the first upper left corner piece of that, the numbers there. And then if we assume that we build 5 houses, each worth about $230,000 a piece on it, that increases the future land value in the next year down to little over 1.2 million, because you've got the property and then the house. And you take it times the levy, and you can see in the original land tax payment, when it had nothing on it, it was just bare land, was generating $437.50 in property taxes. When we build 5 houses on those 5 lots, each assessed at $230,000. I know it's on the next spreadsheet. I forgot what the amount is, but we'll see it in a second. Those taxes would then be generated at $21,700. So that is the amount of TIF revenue that's generated. Here's a graph that kind of shows that as well. And if you see the little red line across the bottom, That's the $437.50 a year that's generated. That amount of money continues to go to the taxing entities, the city, the schools, et cetera, throughout the life of a TIF bond. The area that is created by the big yellow or goldish line is the revenue that then goes eventually to pay off the TIF bond. So that's a graphic representation of the grid that I just showed you. Okay. Now, I just need to apologize. I'm an IT guy, so I think in logic and process. So I'm sorry, but I'm going to drag you through kind of how this money works. And this, I just want to say, this is roughly the model of Austin's timeline here, but these dates are just meant to be in order. Things do not actually occur necessarily on the dates here. They're just kind of representative of the typical time frame. So please don't print in the paper, Todd, the mayor said on this specific day, this stuff happened, because that's not how it occurs. This stuff is kind of messy and it doesn't typically fall on those specific dates. The CRA completes a redevelopment agreement with the developer. Redeveloper begins construction on infrastructure and, in this example, 5 row houses. And then we move from the end of 2026, the beginning of 2026 to the beginning of 2027, where construction is completed in 2026 and the property development is assessed by the county in 2027 on the stuff that was built in 2026. These dates are important, folks, so keep up with the dates, please. And then we get to the redeveloper begins construction on another 5 additional houses. And in a neighborhood development, that's usually how it works. They start one block of them, and then in the next year, they'll start another block of them. So that's why that reference on the end of January is there. And then in November of 27, the levy is set in the fall. It's usually in November sometime by the taxing entities. So as you're all aware, the city, the county, the schools, everybody makes their levy request, and then the county officials set the levy for the entire county. It generally occurs in November. That's why that 11/30 date is relevant in there. Property taxes are assessed by the county for new construction in 2026, late in 2027. So that's when you all get that tax statement, because remember, you're paying your property taxes a year back. So it's 2026. When we pay our property taxes this year, we're paying for 2025. Okay. And then in May of 2028, which is now a little over 2 years from when the redeveloper started construction, the redeveloper then has to pay the first half of the property tax payment for what was built in 2026. Okay. And then at the end of August of 2028, they would pay the second half of the property tax payment for what was built in 2026. Now, the redeveloper may choose to pay it all at once. That would be their choice, but ultimately there would be 2 separate payments, okay? Then we jump over to September of 2028. Lincoln County forwards the property tax proceeds amount to the city of North Platte. Now, in our example, it's that if this worked perfectly in 5 row houses and they were all done perfect in the model, the county would be sending over to the city $21,700 less the $450. That's the amount that would come in. The city then takes that amount of money and forwards the property tax payment to the bondholder, which is typically a bank or investor at this point. That's 99% of the time, that's what it is. Property taxes, so then we go to the end of 2028. Property taxes are again assessed by the county on the new construction that occurred in 2027. Remember, I said they usually build one part of a neighborhood and then they start building a second part of the neighborhood. So in 2027, there's more new construction. Redeveloper begins construction on more infrastructure and 5 additional row houses in 2029, early 2029. Redeveloper pays the taxes in May and at the end of August, or maybe all at once, and then the county again sends the payment, this time for the taxes in 2027, to the city, and the process repeats. You'll be happy to know I didn't do 10 more slides like this. Okay, because it's not boring, it's boring, it's not exciting stuff, but that's basically the flow of the money. And this is all a very long process to point out sort of 2 things specifically. The property taxes are assessed on 12/31/2027. It's the almost clear to the right on this picture right here. for the construction in 2026. The redeveloper pays those taxes in 2028. They get a refund, or the money goes to the bond holder, again, typically the bank or the investor, in late 2028. We started construction at the 1st of 2026. So all of the money that it took to build the infrastructure and those first 5 homes was expended in 2026. And they're starting to recover a little bit of it about 2 years later, 2.5 years later, roughly. Although the construction would not have been done in January of 2026, it probably finished somewhere in the fall, and that's how it works. So anyway, I just wanted people to kind of understand the timeline of and how the money flows. Oh, that's a big eye test, isn't it? Okay, this is the model that Ty did for all of us, and what it shows here is the construction of 5 row houses and how the property and the construction levies increase, the levies increase over time because the value of the property goes up. The levy doesn't increase. The amount of money derived from the levy goes up over time. And that is the columns that are just 2 and 3 to the left of the yellow area. The yellow area shows what the TIF bond is doing for balances throughout this time. And I can go out of here and zoom in on this, and we'll take questions. We may have to refer back to this. What's interesting about this one, just want to make it clear, this is 5 row houses with a 20-year TIF if everything was perfect, okay, based on reasonable construction costs and assessments and things like that. And this is, it's fair to say, Ty, this is kind of how the banks look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we used a 5% increase in tax assessment value every 3 years because the history in our area has been for them to look at a house's value approximately every 3 years.
Okay, thank you. So here's the summary of all of this. And I apologize, everybody. I should have printed this out for everyone, and my day just got busy. The number to look at, I'm going to exit so I can zoom in here just a second. This is the number I want to look at. Is this $37,376. Go through all that massive spreadsheet and all those calculations and all the payments and what this works out to as loan proceeds per house. So this is what the redeveloper could actually get from the bank to contribute to building 5 row houses with all the infrastructure and all of the associated vertical TIF and all that. And in this perfect model, and again, it's perfect, so it's not going to be exactly like this in the real world, we would come up with $37,376 per house that the developer would be able to expend towards building this house. Now, Brent, per linear foot, what is infrastructure on a neighborhood street with water, sewer, storm sewer, et cetera, going to cost on a typical neighborhood street, not an arterial?
Well, what we use on a budgetary type of estimate is a lot of variables. But a lot of times what we use is about $1,000 per foot, per linear foot. That would get water, sewer, electric, storm sewer, paving, dirt work. About 1,000 feet. So if it's a 50-foot lot, $50,000.
Okay, thank you. Could vary a little bit if the developer had a better deal with the installers, but it's just as an average, that's about what it's going to be. So my point in all of this is to point out that that amount of TIF proceeds per house that can be borrowed to build the house works out to about what it costs to install the infrastructure. Okay. I'm going to go back to the presentation. Okay. Ty, do you have anything to add? The rest of the numbers on here we can talk through, but it's very bankerish. Ed's already trying to fall asleep over there, so we might lose him for good if we go into the bank. But if anybody has any questions, we can come back to it. So
the only thing I would add is that what we were really trying to solve for was at what amount will that TIF bond payments for those 5 houses for that phase pay back the borrowing at basically a neutral number. So at the end, the developer isn't short of having to pay off the loan under this scenario, and there isn't a windfall at the end of it from the TIF outside of it. So we were trying to solve for something neutral. And of course, that assumes that the mill levy stays the same. And then Brent's number, I don't think would include any land value or cost. Is that correct? So that's something to keep in mind as you're thinking about it too.
Okay, moving on. We have another one. This is for 10 single-family homes. Same calculations, larger numbers, basically. And this is for 10 homes rather than 5 row homes, 10 single-family homes. So this is what most of us probably live in today. Just notice that down here, which is that year 20, there is not a 0. And that means that, again, this is a perfect scenario. So it probably, reality probably would not be here. But in this one, the TIF bond did not pay off. And so the developer would be $29,547 short on the recovered amount, or about $30,000 short in this particular model. Okay, on the TIF. So this one, zoom in again. It did it for me. Assumes around $46,400 in this model per house, because it's a single family home. So there's going to be more eligible costs. Therefore, it's a larger amount of money rather than a row house, which is typically smaller and less money. That's the main difference. Okay. Moving on. Now we're going to start talking about paving assessments, paving assessment districts. And again, this looks really good on my computer monitor. Does not look very good on these screens. Sorry. Paving districts are special assessment districts for street work. Cities use them to pave, repave, improve streets, and charge contiguous property owners for the paving infrastructure. Payments on special assessments may be certified as an eligible TIF cost. Okay. And this item number 4 that we're talking about tonight, this is a piece of that drawing. Francis Street is right above the red box. It says assessment area. And what's proposed in this is the entire cost of that street being assessed to roughly that area. This is just me drawing a red box. This is not a surveyed box that is accurate. This is just at about that area. And that's what's being proposed tonight. So everybody's on the same page. These are, this is a page from the redevelopment plan talking about the phasing, and it's page 5 of 20 in the redevelopment plan amendment is what this is from. The highlighted areas just point out phase 1, which talks about several items involving East Phillip and McCabe. It also mentions in the highlighted area the installation of approximately 3,100 linear feet of roadway. And what that is that 3,100 feet basically starts at the east edge of Bryan Street and goes to just behind the post office, roughly, and kind of in a straight line and then curving down. And then phase 2, which is the area that we're discussing tonight in item number 4, talks about installing utilities and roads and such on roads 2 through 4, which are kind of on the east end of the development. But also in phase 2, it says, this phase also includes the installation of approximately 2,600 linear feet of East Francis as illustrated in Exhibit B, phase 2. And so that 2,600 feet is approximately the distance of the area we're talking about assessing. That's what's in that yellow line that I showed you early in the presentation. It's that piece of Francis Street right there. Again, give or take a few feet. So this is right out of the redevelopment plan. And notice that it says in phase 2, it repeats the language in each of the phases, but it says redeveloper will build and pay for the installation of roads and utilities for roads 2. Solid phase also includes approximately 2,600 feet, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now we're down to some expert testimony here real quick. So if I understood Councilman Garrick's question correctly, and his concern from the last meeting was that we could end up in a scenario where a purchaser of property would end up paying off an assessment, which would be a significant number in this case, could very well be, or very likely to be, I should say, and then also have to pay property taxes, which would then be used or should have been used to pay for the street in the first place. Did I get it right? Okay. So we had to do some research. I think several of us were we're not following necessarily what Councilman Garrick was saying right away, but after a while we got there. And so that's why I called in the experts, was to kind of clear all this up tonight. So we make sure we understand what could possibly happen and what's real here. So anyway, to that end, I'm going to ask Lindsay Peterson to come up to the front here. Lindsay is the owner of one of our local title companies who deals with the sale of property many, many times every year. She has multiple locations across the state. So Lindsay, I've asked you these questions kind of before. So can you see it on that monitor right there? Okay, that's good. Probably looks better than this one. Okay, that's good. Anyway, so I think you understand the scenario. So could you just tell us from the closing company perspective, how would an assessment and a TIFN agreement, those things, how would those be found in your process so that a potential buyer could not be shocked, duped, surprised, whatever, by an assessment?
The developer, once they're selling the house to an individual, then we do a search of that property and show any and all of the liens and encumbrances against that property. So if there were mortgages, rights of way, and special assessments are always shown on our commitment as being on that property. Then as part of our closing process, at the closing, in order for us to transfer clear title, a warranty deed is used, and a warranty deed is what the seller gives to the buyer that says, I'm transferring the property to you free and clear. Our job as a title company is to make sure that that actually happens, and that we take care of the encumbrances and special assessments. So at the time of the closing, the funds that would be subtracted from what the seller is getting. The seller is the one that is paying off the entire special assessment at the time of closing, and so the buyer isn't coming in paying for it again. They're paying the purchase price, but then that encumbrance, just like if the seller had a mortgage, we would be paying a special assessment, that mortgage, and that'd come out of the seller's proceeds at that time.
Could there be a case where that paving district goes with the seller or goes with the buyer?
Maybe one example would be like if a developer sold to another developer and that developer wanted to continue, rather they negotiate that in the purchase price. So maybe the purchase price is a little bit more reduced because the buyer is going to continue to pay that paving district cost. I know Austin has been working with reputable realtors in town. I mean, do I think that there is a remote, very slim possibility that if somebody wasn't using a title company and a realtor or an attorney, potentially could that sneak by on a quitclaim deed? That's not, I mean, it's not 100% uncertainty, but if they're going through the process, which I know they've been doing, I know they've been working with realtors, every single purchase agreement is going to say that special assessment has to get paid off. Now we have also done like with commercial properties where perhaps maybe that's also negotiated in a purchase price, that the purchase price is lower because they're going to continue paying off. But that's, again, if you're going through the title company, we've got the commitment, we're showing you what's on the property, and so at that point, the buyers are going to be aware of that being a part of the negotiation.
Will they be aware that should have gone to their TIF proceeds? So what you're saying is you're going to be aware, which I understand. I appreciate that. But if it should have been paid off with the TIF piece, I still have concern that there's being a
So just a second, Lindsay, just remember that in order for the redeveloper to claim that they paid for the street, in order for them to turn it as a TIF eligible expense, they have to have paid for it. So
they can use other TIF eligible expenses besides the street if they're $37 million.
Well, but they would have to build something to do that, so it would still be a benefit to the overall scenario. So yes, you can move things around inside of a TIF bond. Yes, that's true. But they would have to account for it somehow. So some positive product would have to be created in the event that the money was used differently. So, but we have some more.
And to that note too, like,
Mhm.
part of what we do in the closing is also pay the current taxes that are due. So on, for example, a single family home, if somebody's buying in 2026, the 2025 taxes will have to get paid by the seller. The 2026 taxes are usually prorated. There's real estate property taxes that have increased because the value is increased, is being paid. So they're not going to be getting double tax. The buyer's not going to be getting double tax.
Well, they are if they're paying off the tip and the payment.
They're going to have to pay the seller's going to have to pay the real estate taxes up to the point of the sale. And then after that, the buyer's paying whatever the real estate taxes on the value of the property.
Right.
That has nothing.
But the payment district stays with the property though. They pay off that. Oh, it's paid off at the time of closing?
Correct.
Okay, if that's a true statement and the pavement district doesn't move forward, then my concern goes away. I just haven't seen anything in writing that says that.
And that's exactly what happens, that the city does a really good job of separating per parcel, what per parcel is, that part of that paving district, and so when we close, that piece gets made free and clear. Just like, if there was like a water hookup that somebody had to hook up to the city, we'd have to pay that to make that free and clear. It might still be on the rest of the property, but the one piece being sold, that piece gets taken care of and is on a partial assessment against that parcel.
So there's no additional paving district that's being paid on down the road.
Correct.
It's
Or
paid
that
for by,
parcel.
yeah, correct. That percentage of
Yep.
that parcel.
Yep.
I do understand that if there's a math equation that you figure out all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's my concern. Where's that in? How is that?
Hold on,
where's that in writing? Just so I can see.
We'll get there in just a second. Okay, sorry. Okay, Lindsay, thanks. We'll hang around if you would, in case there's some more questions. So then that naturally brings up a couple more things, which is how exactly does this work from the seller's perspective? And so it kind of asks the question, in what manner does the redeveloper, which is the seller, intend to resolve paving district assessments? And then what financing provisions are required by the banks and financiers, because they're involved in all this to make sure that the property is cleanly transferred. So Austin, would you address those questions, please?
And going back, I think it was the second or third slide where he showed the future phases of the development.
Right here?
A couple more back. It was a little bit more clear.
You want the pictures?
Yes, please.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so the left-hand picture is the first phase. So my team's only doing the single family development. We have a co-developer that's looped under our same redevelopment plan that's handling all the multifamily. So our first phase is on the east or right side of the left-hand photo. I think it's probably appropriate to get into a little bit of mechanics on how we plan on doing this. So I don't know if everyone can see the numbering. Road
Probably
8,
not.
9, 10, 11 is right below the yellow highlighted section. So that's going to be the assessment portion of the property. On the left-hand side, which is the west side, which you can't see the blue property, that's going to be the second phase. So mechanically, what we plan on doing is proportionately spreading even though the assessment is specifically on certain portions, on future phases, we're going to start prepaying that early. Our plan is to try and get that paid off before we ever start building on where the current assessment is. On utilizing a per square footage basis for the paving district, if we ever were to get to a portion of the current assessment, we would pay off the lot itself that is needed. And this gets into the second question a little bit that the mayor had on the screen, but from our side, we have Midwest Land Development, which is our infrastructure company and the company that's tied to the redevelopment plan. We also have a housing company. We have separate partners in both companies, separate financing in both companies. A requirement before I can even start housing construction on the lot with our housing company, our bank requires a priority lien on that property. So the bank won't even let me start housing construction unless we have a free and clear title that's provided from a title search. So I think it's a great question that the council member brought up. I'm happy to even put in writing that we won't start construction until on that specific portion of the assessment until that's paid for, because that's a requirement that we have today.
It would make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
If it was just in writing, just
Sure.
clean, real simple language.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that. I don't know if that requires us to do an amendment through the CRA, what that process is, but I'm happy to put that in. So that
We'll bring up the attorney in a minute and he can tell us. So, okay. Thanks, Austin. We reserve the right to call you back. Mr. Bacon, if you don't mind. I suppose the initial question right out of the out of the gate is kind of what's the best way to guarantee that those in writing that the assessments would be paid, street paving assessments would be paid off prior to a piece of property being sold.
Actually pretty simple. It's hiding in the language and sort of
Cost certification, if you take a look at the bond in this case, it has a index on the back. And the bond,
Please get in front of the microphone.
Get in
Thank
front of
you.
the
You have a tendency to wander, so please. Sorry.
I do. Apologies. So the TIF bond is like a draw note at the bank. So if in a normal case, let's say that there's $100,000 worth of street put in, they're not going to endorse, Don is not going to endorse that on the bond, on the draw note, unless you prove that you paid the $100,000. Okay? So the benefit doesn't go to the TIF bondholder, his banker or himself, unless he's actually spent the money. And then it draws interest. The way you do it with a special assessment district is you don't get to claim interest or repayment unless you make the special assessment payment. You come in with a canceled check, a receipt from the treasurer saying, I paid the special assessment, endorse it on my bond. If they don't do that, they're not, if they don't write the check, they don't get repaid for that. Okay? So they're not double dipping. Simple. Developer has to make the payment, period. If we want to put it in more plainer English, we can certainly do that as a part of a redevelopment contract amendment, which I would recommend in this case, because this started out that the developers are supposed to put it all in, pay for it all, and then get it back. This thing is really cooked up to be a pretty good deal for that arterial, because it gets there faster, is a good deal for everybody, and will kickstart the development. So that process was not contemplated in the redevelopment contract. A proposed amendment is out there that's not been signed off that would require them to pay that. So it's a fairly simple fix to make sure that there's the concern that you have is not there and that it be required. And the penalty provisions under the redevelopment contract are just staggering. They're liquidated damages, so they can't do an in run around without you taking the money back away out of the TIF bond. So
I completely understand the reasoning behind the paving district. It expedites the process, it jumpstarts
Yeah.
the project. It's win-win for everybody.
sure.
I just want to make sure that the little guy who buys a lot at the end of the day
Yeah.
isn't getting, taxed both ways. So if we could put some real simple language into that, and you know, that would completely remove my concerns.
That's been in the holding pattern. And that has to be blessed by the other lawyers, Mr. Jasinski and the redevelopment authority, so.
Everybody's got their, get their billable hours.
Yeah, the more lawyers you have, the slower it goes. That's right.
Okay. All right, Bill, you had something to add?
Yeah, and just to clarify that point, Mike, that is an amendment to the redevelopment contract, which includes both the developer, the CRA, and the city. So all three parties would have to agree to it.
Three-legged
And
stool,
so
yeah.
To Councilman Garrett's point, it would come back to city council for approval.
Yeah, you'll get to read the language and approve it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Appreciate you being here. Okay. That pretty much concludes my presentation. Anyone has questions, I'll try to convince Ty to answer them. So I'm just kidding. Or we'll get that. Go ahead. Didn't account for Ty having a question.
You know, I don't have the same concern because I live in a world where everybody's watching for those assessments. I understand your concern, but I live in a world where you basically have to be a real fool to get stuck with a property. I mean, no lawyer, no realtor, no title company, no bank. Not to say it couldn't happen, but it's very unlikely. What I think while we're thinking about all this, what we can't lose sight of is just making sure that by being this, if we're going to be that stringent on that requirement, that, which it sounds like they plan to follow anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter, that we're not shrinking the amount of property or collateral that's in our assessment district, because that's still what I care about, is making sure that, you know, in other words, if they want to agree that, yeah, we're going to clear all the assessments, but it's on 5 acres of property, well, I'm more concerned that the 15 acres of property that should be assessed gets assessed. So as we're thinking about it, I wouldn't want, everybody agrees to it. I think that's great. Let's make that amendment. But if it shrinks the base of the assessment because they're trying to limit the properties that are agreeing to that, then we would shoot ourselves in the foot with that. So to me, if we're going to do that, I think that's great, but we got to be really careful we're not shrinking our district as part of it.
Okay. Any other, Nick?
The way it reads today, correct me if I'm wrong, the way it reads today is, if the city puts an assessment on that property, that assessment is there until it is paid for. If they don't use the TIF money to pay for that assessment, then they won't be double taxed, right? So if they leave that assessment on there and use that TIF money for something else, it's not a double tax. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I'm following you correctly.
Sorry.
I think I have a slide to address what you're asking about here. So hold on.
Let me see if I can clarify a little bit.
Okay.
So they have to have the receipt of that assessment being paid before they can receive the TIF eligible money.
Correct.
Okay, there we go. That's
Okay.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
So if they pay it and it's gone, then they don't get the TIF funds unless they pay it.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Was there a slide in here that said that they are responsible for paying for that pavement district?
Yeah, it says
Already?
build,
It's in the
says they
contract
could
right there.
build and
Right there.
pay.
Yeah.
right there.
It's right on there, right there.
Okay.
Will build and pay for the installation.
Yeah. So we already have that in the redevelopment
Yeah,
contract.
that's a picture
already.
of the existing redevelopment contract.
Okay. So what are we wanting to add to this? Are we wanting to amend this or no?
I think Mr. Bacon has some input since he's moving. So,
And if we do go to amend this, is this going to prolong this street?
but it doesn't have to. So
Okay.
I'll let Mr. Bacon answer here. So,
That contract says that the developer's going to do it. You all change your mind and say the city's going to do it and charge them for that. That needs to be cleaned up. And and you will pay, not stick it to some poor schmuck.
Okay.
We'll clean that language up a little bit.
I guess my concern is trying to move this forward.
well, we can still proceed with this because
Okay.
all we're doing potentially is approving a district, something we can get this amendment cleared up, that nothing happens on the district for several months. In the event that something goes haywire, we can do it again. But we do need, excuse me just a second, Jim, I'll give you the floor, but we do need to get these streets out for bid. because we're missing the prime bid construction season here. If we don't get it done fairly soon, we'll end up paying a lot more money for it. So, yeah. Jim, you had something?
I just wanted to address, when the person, like the title person talked about here, when you buy the piece of real estate, that's part of the lien search. They check whether the title is good. They would see that lien. That assessment has to be removed before they would close the sale. So any purchaser of that property will buy that property if they go through the proper procedure with a warranty deed, free and clear. The only thing they would have to do is pay taxes in the future. That's all they have, but they could never be assessed for that street because that was paid at the time of closing. That's the important thing. You're worried about the small guy. They'll never get hurt by this. Because the assessment will be paid before they get title to the property.
Under this new deal, I would agree with your statement, but there's some potential liability, but it sounds like everybody's amenable to cleaning
They've
this
done
up.
that that's the way they do for real estate transactions, is they won't pay, the buyer won't pay until that lien is released.
Right.
And so as far as that buyer's concerned, it's always released. Whether the tip bond is paid or not, once you get that title and get the lien release, whether the tip bond is paid doesn't make any difference to the buyer. That property is free and clear. That's an issue for us. That's what I'm trying to say, Pat. The small guy won't get hurt.
That's my concern, so.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything, Ed?
I was gonna make a motion.
We have a motion already. So unless you'd like to make an amendment of some kind. Okay. Everyone have their questions answered on this one. Angie, would you go back, please?
I'd like to thank you for the clarification.
Yes. I was just going to say, I appreciate the opportunity to indulge me in trying to answer the questions. I think it's always good when we have a strange question that we get all the facts. I'm sorry, not strange, but an unusual question that we get all the facts out there so everybody can kind of understand what we're talking about. Because this stuff is complex. It is very complex. And to try to, to Brad's point, we could have the best of ideas and make one wrong move, and 10 years from now, a bunch of people are sitting here and goes, well, why did those idiots do that 10 years ago? It could happen. So anyway, calling the question on item number 4. Item number 4 is passed. Item number 5, third reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4206 to create paving extension district number 841 on proposed Francis Street from Bicentennial Avenue to Newberry access. Lane, the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4206, an ordinance for the creation of paving district number 841 on proposed Francis Street from Bicentennial Avenue to Newberry access in the city of North County, Nebraska, and ordering the construction of street improvement therein.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4206 to create paving extension district number 841 on proposed Francis Street from Bicentennial Avenue to Newberry access on third reading.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Dye. Okay. Brent, please. We're basically talking about the next piece of Francis Street, which runs from Bicentennial to Newberry. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mayor, council, this next portion, we've kind of labeled it as the grant portion that we're running. We have a Department of Economic Development grant through the state of Nebraska, which has no federal backing or strings behind it. It's just state funds. So the requirements on it are much smaller than what we get from, per se, a CDBG project, and it's 75-25. So 75% grant, 25% match. And this portion would go from Bicentennial to Newberry, which would close the section of the road that we're talking about for Francis.
And we have to, by the grant, we have to have this piece done by September of this year.
Correct.
Otherwise, we lose the grant funds for it.
Correct. The grant funds is about 1.6 million, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And what do you anticipate the total cost of this section of the road to be? I realize it's an estimate, but
Around 2.2 million is
Okay.
what we're looking at.
okay. So it's a 75-25 split, correct?
Correct.
3/4.
75% grant. And
70, yeah, 25. And what's in our proposal today is that the 25% would be assessed to the contiguous property, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. So Brent, have a chair for a second. Austin, since you would ultimately be responsible for paying that 25%, again, in a district, I just want to make sure that everything on your end is arranged, and because that property doesn't belong to you today, it belongs to someone else, unless
Correct.
you've purchased it in the last few weeks anyway. So, okay.
No, we're gonna take full responsibility of paying that,
Okay.
25% difference. Yeah, we'll probably talk more details into what that all needs to look like, but we'll assume the responsibility.
So is it fair to say that you have an arrangement with the current owners?
Yeah, within the easement for the current owners to allow for a portion of the land to be dedicated to the city for that road, we assumed responsibility for all financial payments.
Okay. So they're not going to be in my office tomorrow after they watch this video, right?
They shouldn't be.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Just want to make sure we aren't surprising anybody.
Yep.
So, all right. Thank you very
Thank
much. Okay. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Other than that, the mechanics of this would work the same largely as the last piece of land. So, anyone have any questions or comments?
So similar question, the TIF is supposed to pay off that road. Now we got a $1.6 million grant essentially. They just take that $1.6 million grant, take their TIF money, and that just a $1.6 million boon to the developer?
Well, they would have to spend it. So,
Agreed, but there's other ways they could spend, TIF eligible ways they could spend that money.
Austin, what's your plan for this scenario?
So as we've gone through the planning process and like earlier stated, it's very complicated trying to forecast future construction expense with inflation and everything else. So based upon the TIF dollars and the price point we're trying, because this really comes down to the price point we're trying to get housing to. We're not coming in and building $450,000 homes. Our current model home that's going up, we have a 1,500 square foot house that we plan on listing on the market for $260,000. So to my basis from the research we've done, it's about $25 a square foot cheaper than what's currently on the market. So what the TIF does is allows us to bring down the cost of the infrastructure burden and inevitably reduce the cost of the housing to the end buyer. So what we're looking at doing, and there's more conversation past this, right? Like I can't make this decision, but as we continue looking at our estimates, as you saw in the numbers that the mayor presented earlier, the infrastructure isn't fully covered by the cost of what TIF is provided. From the TIF generated from an individual property doesn't pay the full portion of the infrastructure. So what we'd like to do is redirect what that horizontal infrastructure cost for Francis was and utilize it for additional infrastructure that's not currently being assessed, with the only result of reducing housing price, right? We make our margin on building the house. You don't make money on infrastructure. So what we're trying to do is reduce that. So in later years, as we get to these future phases and, 5 or 6 years from now, when housing prices and construction costs goes up, we're able to offer a lesser amount than we otherwise would be able to do. So I know within the redevelopment plan, there's all sorts of language on cost shifting, and it's really just flexibility on where you get to, but our goal isn't to try and pocket any sort of money on infrastructure. It's taxpayer dollars. We're utilizing it to bring down construction price. And I think from day one, we've been holding true on what the type of housing we're building, the price of the housing we're building, right? If I come back in 5 years, I'm selling $400,000 homes, that's a different story. But as of now, we're trying to come in at a price point that I believed when I first came to North Platte, and still believe while we're here building. It's a portion of the market that's being missed. From our housing studies, the feedback from a realtor team, everyone is saying you need more housing in that $250,000 to $300,000 range. And in the last X amount of decades, 25 homes a year have been built. The data we're seeing is the average price of a new home being constructed right now is $450,000. So when you talk about, right, your average median income in North Platte, you can't afford a $450,000 home. There is no $450,000 spec homes being built. We want tract housing that's got amenities that I think a lot of people expect today, but it's at a price point your household income in North Platte can afford.
So, just so I'm gonna transfer all those words, but yeah, this is a $1.6 million boon to your bottom line.
No,
Is that
that's incorrect.
because you're gonna shift it over to other things, is what you said?
We're going to utilize it to continue bringing down the cost of infrastructure, so we continue bringing the price of housing at the lowest price possible. Our margin is set on housing. Every dollar of infrastructure that's not covered by TIF, your residents pay for. That's how the development works. And that's not just us, that's every developer I've met and talked to.
So how is it not a $1.6 million boon if you're gonna utilize it other places?
Brad, excuse me, forgive me. You keep on talking about the boon. That is not correct. That is
How's it
not correct. They're talking about selling a house for $250,000.
Right.
You have land cost, you have the improvement to make it, and you have the construction cost. What this man's been trying to tell you is they make their money on the construction cost. The land and is the land, and then you get into what the infrastructure, the sewer, that's what the TIF pays for. And if you don't get that paid for, it increases the top line at the other end.
You also stood in front of us and said that the TIF was gonna pay off this road. Now, $1.6 million of it is going to be paid another way. I'm just trying to talk through the logistics of that.
Yeah, I think if you'd sit down and, because you're an intelligent man and I respect you tremendously, Brad, but if you sit down there and take a look at numbers, you'd understand this isn't a boom. He's telling you the money they make on these projects is the construction cost. But they gotta have a place to put that house, and you gotta keep that price low enough that people can pay for it. If they don't do it with TIF, there's gonna add another, 25,000 onto the price?
Depends how many houses you spread it across, but what we're going to be able to do in 5 years is
Buyers would have to pay.
I understand that. I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of how this grant money fits into the TIF, which is supposed to go towards the road.
Mayor, may I ask Austin item?
Go ahead.
Ways up here. I think one thing we're losing sight of in this too is that under the original plan, this segment of road, would it have been targeted for like year 3 or 4? Is my memory right on that, Austin? If we started today?
Yeah, so I believe the first ordinance was for phase 2, which was, if I remember right, that would have started next year, probably been completed in 2028. And then the following phase would have been, I think, 2029. I'm going off of memory from a couple of years, but we're moving the schedule substantially farther ahead.
Yeah, one thing I think we want to not lose sight of in that is that this phase, the last piece, was really targeted. I figured in my head it'd be 4 or 5 years after the first parts of phase 1, if things went really well. And so that grant has sped this whole process up, and all of a sudden we're going to have a road that works for the community. It's going to go all the way out to Newberry, which is just such a fantastic thing. The other thing is I think people still lose sight of, in my mind, there's no such thing as TIF dollars. There's TIF costs. There's money you spend that you can certify, and then you get tax rebates, and then you can try to go borrow money against or get an investor to front you some money on the money you think you're going to get out of that. So if they don't spend the certified costs and they don't build anything, they don't max out the building, I worry way less about what the face amount of a TIF bond is, and worry more about what's the interest rate, what's the time frame, and all that, because that's really what you're committing to. What you're committing to is, hey, you guys are going to get these tax rebates. So I hope they build so much that the TIF money comes back way faster, maxes out, and everybody's just had, the town has just boomed as a result of it. And so but I think we don't want to lose sight of that time thing, because if you did push that out a few years with the time value of that money and the costs of construction going up, it would eat into that $1.6 million quite a bit, I think.
Correct.
Well, if you think about it in those terms, Ty, and I totally agree, getting the road done faster is in everybody's benefit. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to make sure that we manage tax dollars well, is really all I'm trying to do. That $1.6 million, if they really take it out to 2030 rates, that 1.6 million or 2 million with the full 100% will be more like $2.8 million in construction costs, because it goes up every year. So doing this faster is in your benefit also, because it's saving you a ton of money on increased construction costs over the next 5-6 years or 4 or 5 years. So That's definitely in your benefit also.
It's in my benefit that from my team, we don't have to put as much equity to get the work done,
For sure.
but it doesn't come out of my profit.
Yep.
We just raise lot pricing and the resident pays for it. That's the piece with infrastructure. Again, that we build the infrastructure as cheap as possible to bring down the cost of housing as much as possible. That's when we get into density and working with the city on, road design and everything that we can do. Our goal is to get the infrastructure in as cheap as possible. So when we build housing, that's where we make our money. So we go back, 50, 60 years ago, the city put in infrastructure, right? I would love to actually come to North Platte and the city say, hey, we have 450 lots we can convey to you and you can build housing. The amount of risk, you get way into the details and TIF monetization and 20-year guarantee and everything else that comes with the risk of getting into development. That's why it's discussed as the most risky piece of real estate. We want to do it as effective and cheap as possible and utilize the tax dollars the best we can so we can get in and build housing as fast as we can, because that's in the end of the day the only way we get paid. So it's a totally valid concern. I'm happy to sit down individually and go through some more of the details, and probably everyone wants to sit here for a couple hours to go over. But yeah, I mean, this is I think fair to say a current discussion with the CRA, because this is an amendment to our plan. We have to get approval from all parties involved, and we need to go through that process to come back with a consensus with everyone.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 5, please. Item number 5 is passed. Item number 6. Thank you everyone for being here that came for this purpose. Appreciate your help. Item number 6, adopt the resolution providing for the designation of Equitable Bank as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution providing for the designation of Equitable Bank as a warrant lender, authorizing the execution and delivery of a warrant purchase agreement with such designated warrant lender, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by McNew. Any discussion on item number 6? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 6, please. Item number 6 is passed. Item number 7, adopt the resolution approving claims and authorizing the issuance of 25 warrants to Equitable Bank totaling $7,587,028.57 to pay approved claims, and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of 25 warrants as presented in the materials.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Flanders. Any discussion on item number 7? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 7, please. Item number 7 is passed. Now we have a series of public hearings. We'll open the first public hearing on item number 8 to approve that agreement for sale of real estate at 2900 West 6th Street with D&C Group LLC, and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. We're opening the public hearing on this subject. If anyone would like to make any comments on this property, please approach the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and we will listen to your comments. It would appear that no one has a comment on this property.
I move we close public hearing.
Second. Motion by Vols, second by Dye to close public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 8, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 2900 West 6th Street with D&C Group LLC, and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with D&C Group LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Vols. Bill, I think this one's yours. You want to quickly describe what you got going on?
Sure. Thank you. I tried to put a little bit more information in the council materials for some of these properties, so hopefully that helped to answer any specific questions folks might have. But this particular property just came up on our list as we worked through. It's been on the property resolution list for a little while. So as I had time to work through that, I reached out to owners along the way, and this particular owner indicated that they would be willing to sell, and so then we just had discussions as to what they would be willing to accept, and that's what you're seeing is the purchase agreement, the proposed purchase agreement that's in front of you tonight.
Questions or comments? Go ahead.
So I don't have a question specifically on this property, but more the process in general. Maybe Judy, could you walk us through the federal, what the requirements are moving forward when we go to sell those properties? I think they have to stay residential. I think they have to, is it low income housing? Like how does that work with the federal strings? Are you the expert?
I don't know that I would call myself the expert. Bill probably knows just as much, if not more than I do. But yes, so with the federal grant funds, the grant funds that we receive for this, you do have to put a lien, what's it called, a covenant on the property? Covenant,
So,
yeah.
For all of the properties that we've purchased thus far, we've had to have executed an approved covenant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development that contains some of the restrictions from the federal grant. So there are certain requirements regarding income limitations as to folks that would purchase the house. So it's not all necessarily low income, and it's not necessarily, I forget, I don't have it in front of me right now, so I apologize, Brad, but it's kind of, there's a term of art, and it's like maybe workforce housing, I want to say, but I can find it for you after the meeting. But
It's meant to be workforce housing, so somebody can't buy this and build a $500,000-$700,000 house on it. It has those income guidelines in there.
And that remains in perpetuity, doesn't it?
For 20
years.
20 years, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, and that's, to be honest, that's why we've been quite selective with the properties that we're looking at, because there are other properties around town. I talked with some of the other council members that we've kind of ruled them out with this grant because they don't fall within what we feel like are truly residential areas. So we're trying to keep a lot of that stuff in mind as we go through this process. A lot of like the planning and zoning type stuff that we're looking at too. And so we try to keep all of that in mind as we try to bring properties forward for you to consider.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 8, please. Item number 8 is passed. Item number 9, another public hearing to approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 2705 West 6th Street with Bradley D. Nelson and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. We're opening the public hearing on this subject. If you'd like to make a comment on 2705 West 6th Street, please approach the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and we'll receive your comment. We always try to wait about 10 seconds. No one's moving. Mr. Lucas?
I motion that we close the public hearing, please.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Dye to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 9, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 2705 West 6th Street with Bradley D. Nelson and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with Bradley D. Nelson and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Voles, second by McNew. We have questions or discussion on item number 9. Mr. Lucas?
Very quickly, I just want to commend the work on this. This neighborhood has some really junky properties and some really great properties. I'm sure a lot of you have looked at it. Everything we can do, this is a neighborhood that could be transitioned with a little bit of help. And so I think, and these two houses are very dilapidated. So this is exactly what I think you'd hope for in this program. So thank you for the work on it.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 9, please. Item number 9 is passed. Item number 10 is another public hearing. Approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 118 South Sycamore Street with Eric Bentley and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. We're opening the public hearing on item number 10, which is 118 South Sycamore Street. If you have a comment, would you please approach the microphone and tell us your comment?
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Voles, second by Lucas to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will consider item number 10, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 118 South Sycamore Street with Eric Bentley and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with Eric Bentley and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by McNew, second by Voles. We have discussion on item number 10.
Just
Yeah, go ahead.
real quickly, thank you. On all of these, I noticed it says no current utilities on the property due to it being vacant. Just to clarify, does that mean that there's utilities there, they're not being used, or there's none at all to these properties?
There are utilities to the properties, they're just not turned on.
Okay.
This particular one is a lot, that my understanding is that the prior house had burned down,
Okay.
some time ago, so there are all the utilities that are available here. But with the other ones that do have structures on them, they have utilities, they just haven't been on, so I included that just to kind of show that, they're not producing any additional revenue for the city, they're, they're just vacant.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you putting all that information in here. It really helps going through this. Where it was a vacant lot, that's what I was curious about, if it had any going to the property or not. So, thank you.
Mayor Keller,
Go ahead.
I grew up in the house that's cat a corner from this house on Sycamore Street. And there was a nice little white house there that burned down. And people lived there for years, and there's houses all the way around this thing. I mean, it'd be great if somebody built a house on it.
It's a great lot.
The city has to mow that, has been mowing that for years, so it would be
So we
nice.
just will own it.
Yeah. Well, we would like to sell it to someone to build a house on. That would be the preferred approach, but
But honestly, that's why we went after this one, is because it's been, on our list for properties that haven't been mowed by the owners, so. It's been kind of it's been red flagged for us, and so I was happy to be able to bring it forward.
Well, it seems like it's a bargain if there's not even a house on it already, so got a good start.
Is there anything in the grant saying we can not buy vacant lots?
No.
We're okay with buying them? Okay.
We purchased a couple already.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we had, but I wasn't positive.
Bill, do you know, is there any assessments because of the mowing the city's done on this lot?
We could bring forward some assessments, which we've kind of had some internal discussions on that, and we're refining our processes on how we issue notices for those assessments. So because of some of the requirements of the ordinance and how some of the notices have gone out, we haven't brought them forward. Yeah, that's something I would say council will start seeing more of this next mowing season.
other questions or comments on item number 10? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 10, please. Item number 10 is passed. Item number 11, public hearing to approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 606 East 5th Street with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. Opening the public hearing on item number 11. If anyone has a comment, please approach the microphone. Not getting a lot of input tonight, folks.
I move we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Voles, second by Lucas to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 10, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 118 South Sycamore. Oops, I read the wrong one. Sorry, number 11. Council will now consider number 11, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 606 East 5th Street with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Flanders, second by Vols. Bill, this is just slightly unusual. You want to talk about this one for a second?
Absolutely. So this particular property has been vacant for some time. It was recently purchased, if you notice from the council materials, by the now new owner of the Napa Auto Store that was on 4th Street. So he purchased it along with several other properties, I think all but the car wash that's on the corner of like 5th and Poplar. He purchased all of those properties here this last year, just as part of the purchase of the Napa store. In our discussions, he indicated that he had done that just so he, made sense to him to have control over all those properties so he could decide what would happen with them. So with these two particular houses, this one for item number 11 and the next one for item 12, they're right next to each other. They've been vacant for a very long time, and he's just decided that it would be best for him to sell them under this program. They seem to be good sized lots where nice houses could go up. The house to the west of these, he's considering what his options are for that, but that has existing tenants in it. It's rented out. So, in going by and taking pictures and everything of this, it seems like it would really help the neighborhood out to have these cleaned up. And then the other thing I would point out for both of these, you might have noticed that the proposed purchase price is a little bit over what the assessed value is on the properties. And in my negotiations with the property owner, he provided me some documentation from his accountant, because what happened is I mentioned he purchased all of these properties as one lump item, and so it's difficult for us to look at the deed where he purchased them and be able to figure out from the doc stamp taxes what he paid for them. So he provided me this additional information from his accountant to show what he was using as his basis in the property. And so the purchase price that you're seeing here is just, it's exactly what he's using as his purchase price, the basis for that from his accountant. So he wouldn't be realizing any gain from it. I suppose if he wants to write off some of the taxes he'll have to pay for the short time he's owned it, he might realize some small loss on it. But that's how we arrived at the purchase price. He didn't want to take a large hit on it, but he wasn't looking to make money on it either.
Rod, I thought you gestured and had a question.
I was looking at on the map, and that is them properties are located in a B2 zone, I believe it was. So is that going to cause us any problems building houses back there? Because that's what the grant requires us to do.
I'll let you guys have heard enough from me, Judy.
What we can do is rezone the property, take a look at it, see all the residential areas around there. Got a couple of different options. We could go with a strictly residential, or we could do a BT and just require business transitional district and just require that a house be put on there. But yeah, it's very doable. It'll have to come back through, be rezoned, and that's part of what the grant is for, is to get these ready to build houses. So yeah, it will take a zone change.
Is the owner of the Napa place, does he know that it'll be a house that's built back there?
He does, yes.
Okay.
Yep. He's in favor of that.
Okay. That's
Pete?
Judy, we haven't seen the new comprehensive plan. What do you think? That'll be a BT zone
Probably
area?
something like that.
And that,
yep.
because it's a mix of business and residential, and right across the street's all residential, but then there's business either way. So
I could see that happening pretty easily.
Okay.
Which would leave it open to definitely requiring a house on there.
In your opinion, do you think that's the best use of this property? Residential?
Yeah, I mean, as it is now, because you have so many other residential areas right around there.
Mhm.
I mean, on the other sides of the streets, they're
Yep.
all residential, so, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I would say being on Fifth Street as opposed to being directly on Poplar. Like there's some other houses that this gentleman owns that are on Poplar that we just didn't consider for the reason that I mentioned earlier in our meeting, where we look at that and from a planning perspective, it seems like along Poplar is probably more appropriate for commercial type businesses as opposed to requiring somebody to have a residence there for the next 20 years.
Other, Ty?
Yeah, I'm glad you're still up here, Judy. This is an just when you think you've run into every weird thing in a city that you could run into, you find something
We can
else.
tell you stories.
Yeah, I know you can. But to me, what's so interesting about this one is if you go through the tax assessment history, it was like 13,000, and then it popped up to like in the 40s, and actually it's down. Well, it's assessed more. I'm sure of it. I didn't call the assessor, but it's because of the B2 zoning. And so here we are. We're going to pay for it with B2 zoning, with not our money though. That's important. But it's not. And we're going to pay for a zoning that we're going to get rid of, and we're going to have a lot that's going to be worth $10,000 when we're done. So there's a lot to think about there. As I tried to look at it, I think the lot could probably be used either way. I mean, I would imagine if we didn't do this, at some point, he's probably going to demolish them and try to get commercial value out of it. But the homes are really nice across the street, and
Yep.
these are going to need torn down, aren't they?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, these
definitely.
are in rough shape. It looks
Yeah,
like.
definitely.
Okay. So it is a little scary to trap those lots in 20 years of zoning jail with residential zoning. I mean, seriously, but I guess where I keep leaning, I guess if the owner wants to do it, but I think we have to recognize we're throwing away some money because of the zoning. That, if we did run out of grant money in the cycle, we might wish we didn't do this one because we're overpaying for it because of the zoning that's there today.
We're not gonna run out of grant money.
I know. So that's probably where I lean on my vote, but I don't know. I'm just babbling because it's such a weird situation, I guess. Yeah.
Trust me, there'll be something new every week.
Yeah, I know.
Anybody else have, Ed, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And Ty, you hit on it right there. We're gonna be buying property that says that it has to have a house on it for the next 20 years. Our town is growing. It's growing rapidly. We don't know what's going to develop over there. We just locked it out of any commercial development to do this. I guess when I'm going to vote no, you know that.
Weird.
But if this was my money, which it is, and I looked in the mirror with my money, would I do it? Hell no, I wouldn't do it. Because it doesn't make any sense. Much said.
Nick?
Thank you. I think with houses being directly across the street, I think keeping it residential is probably okay with me. Just because, I mean, we've voted to keep residential on this council before. So I think locking it in, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but I think keeping it residential, I'm okay with doing that and locking it in. These houses do need to go. They are kind of eyesores, and I think that we're doing the right thing by getting them cleaned up, and we are losing money, but we need to continue on this path of getting properties like these and the previous ones taken care of and addressed and moving forward. One quick question that I had though, they have to be residential. There's no way to consolidate these two lots to do apartment complexes or anything.
That's possible. You could do an apartment complex.
Okay, so that is
Yeah.
possible. Okay.
Yeah.
We keep saying houses. I just wasn't sure if that was a possibility or not.
Dwelling units.
Right.
And you can use them, so you can buy it yourself, put your own house on there, live there.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy it as a rental property, but again, you do still have some criteria as to how much you can charge.
So what's the cap or what's the criteria? Do we know on what sort of apartments they were? Because I mean, like, could they be $2,500 a month apartments or okay? So
That's too
they do
much.
have regulations in there on the amount
Yeah.
you can charge per month.
That's
Yes.
the income criteria.
Yes.
Gotcha.
This, that Bill was speaking about earlier.
Well, I knew they had that for the residential. I wasn't sure
Yeah,
if they had that.
it,
for
it
the-
applies across the board.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Ed, go ahead.
So, given the scenario, we buy it, we raise it, we've got a lot. Now it's rated for, it has to have a house built on it. We're going under the presumption that the location is not very desirable for building a new house. It's gonna cost somewhere between $150,000 to maybe $200,000. What if nobody wants to buy it? What if nobody wants to buy the lot?
I think they'll buy it.
Yeah.
I really do.
We're
You've
not
got your-
guaranteed that anybody's gonna buy this lot.
Well, there's no guarantee, you're right, but you've got your infrastructure all ready to go. The lot's gonna be free and clear of all encumbrances, and they're gonna get a lot for a very low price as compared to
Doesn't
what they
mean
could
that
do it.
Anybody's gonna wanna build a house there, given the location of the property. That's, anyway. I've said
Well,
enough.
I think all I can tell you is about every month, probably on average, I get a call from local builders wanting more lots, and I tell them that these will be available at some point in the future, and they all want to be aware when they're available. So I'm not arguing with you, but I don't think it will be a big issue selling them. So go ahead, Nick.
And that's kind of to my point is it could be apartments. It doesn't necessarily have to be a house. I think that would be a good place where somebody didn't want to build a house, they could build apartments there because we have apartments in business districts all over the city. So that's why I was bringing up the apartment.
So to Nick's point, this actually, apartments there make a lot of sense, like it really does. But to Ed's point, I know there's a lot of people that are looking for lots, but we're gonna have a ton of them come up at the same time. So I do have some concerns that that's gonna drive the price of these down fairly significantly when we have 30 or 40 lots come available essentially at the same time.
And to your point, Brad, and what the mayor brought up, we're keeping a list of these people that are interested, and it gets longer all the time. I couldn't tell you how many are on there right now, but I mean, I think we're gonna have a number, and because of the criteria, maybe each one is only gonna want one or two, maybe three lots. It could be, I mean, it could obviously be an issue, but I think we're gonna have enough interest that there's probably gonna be numerous builders that are gonna want 2 or 3 lots at a time. So I think
And I hope that's right, but with the workforce housing restrictions and the volume of lots, we have potential to where that's gonna drive that price down. Just something to be cognizant of.
The other thing we need to keep in mind is the houses across the street from a couple of these places are pretty darn nice houses. And if you lived across the street and had to look at this all the time, I think you'd be tickled if the city demolished it and you had a vacant lot. And it will eventually sell. Somebody will build something there.
Other questions or comments on item number 11? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 11, please. Item number 11 is passed. Item number 12, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 608 East 5th Street with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. Opening the public hearing on item number 12, which is highly similar to item number 11. Anyone would like to make a comment, please approach the mic and let us know your thoughts.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by McNews, second by Lucas to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 12, approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 608 East 5th Street with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with Southwest Farm and Auto Supply LLC and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Vols. Again, highly similar to the last one. Any discussion on this one? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 12. Item number 12 passes. Okay. Item number 13, approve the claims.
Mayor, I move that we pay the bills.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols to pay the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to abstain from voting.
Okay, record show, Mr. Dye abstained from number 13. And calling the question on item number 13, please. Item number 13 is passed.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into closed session, discuss potential real estate transactions to protect the public interest.
Second.
Motion by Vols, second by Dye. Go into closed session, calling the question on closed session. Mr. Reeker. Ed, closed session, calling the question on closed session. What's in those mints you've got there? Okay. Council is now in closed session. Thank you, everyone. Microphones off, please.